team will exchange gifts. Robbie Patorik of Team USA and Valery Vasiliev of the Team USSR.
So the exchange of gifts have been completed. This is the Prism Canada Cup Network. The top 4 teams, after playing each of the other 5 once, will survive into a semifinal round. The first place team against the 4th, the second against the 3rd. One semifinal game next Friday in Ottawa, the other in Montreal, with the final game a week from Sunday in Montreal. Now for the introduction of the starting lineup for this afternoon's game, the public address announcer, Gordy Ross.
For Team USA, in goal, number 35, Tony Esposito. On left defense, number 23, Rod Langway. On right defense, number 6, Ken Morrow. On the left wing, number 9, Mark Johnson. On the right wing, number 27, Warren Miller. And at center ice, number 18, Mike Eves. Now the starting lineup for Team USSR. In goal, number 20, Vladislav Tretiak. On left defense, number 2, Vyacheslav Fedosov. On right defense, number 7, Alexei Kasatonov. On the left wing, number 24, Sergei Makarov. On the right wing, number 9, Vladimir Krutov. And at center ice, number 11, Igor Larionov. The officials for today's game: the referee, Vladimir Subert, the linesman, Ray Scapanello, and John D'Amico.
Well, to National Hockey League fans around the United States, the latter 2 names are familiar. Those of NHL linesman Vladimir Subert is from Czechoslovakia. And we're set to get underway with the 3rd game for the United States and for the Soviet Union in Canada Cup play. The U.S. a record of 1-1, and the Soviet Union 1 win and 1 tie. Vyacheslav Fedosov's pass at center ice is tapped free by Langway, but gathered in by Kasatnov. Kasatnov duels the boards in front of the Russian bench, and the puck cleared right back in by Mike Eves. Just underway here in this game this afternoon. Soviet Union and the U.S. with that history-making rivalry set up at Lake Placid. Centering toss maneuvered right back out again. The pass too far for Krutov, so back to play is Rod Langway. Langway across to Ken Morrow, whose pass bounced off Eves' skate at center ice. Brought back along by Sergei Makarov. Makarov back to his own line to the captain of this team, Valery Vasiliev. Vasiliev controlling and dumping back into the U.S. zone. Langway to play once more as the Soviets have made a personnel change. Langway working it up the far wing, and the puck dumped to center ice where the new unit will play. Shalamov fed it to the U.S. line, but right back now is Langway to wrist one that is gloved helmet high by Tretiak. Soviets turn it back out again. The United States has made a change with Mark Howe's line on. Shalamov with a quick shot, and a stop there by Tony Esposito going into that customary butterfly maneuver. Around the boards it comes, where Shepelev sent one out in front. That went skidding to the far boards. Tanopus playing back and able to get some help on the play from Howe, and across it comes at center ice to Langevin. Langevin slides one on goal. It's shunted to the corner by Tretiak. Played back behind the goal, but just out of the reach of Christoph for the U.S. Behind the net with this, and centering one all the way out in front was Patorik, but it came back into the U.S. zone, and so Langevin will go back to play that one. Long toss at center ice, goes all the way back down again, and so Tretiak turns it to the corner. So Yadinov playing it into the far corner to Pervukin, and Pervukin's pass misfires, and so back down the ice they'll go to play once more. Reed Larson puts the lumber to the rubber, and we get a halt of play. 2:01 gone in this opening period.
Well, Reed Larson, the mainstay of the Detroit Red Wings defense, had an excellent year last year in the National Hockey League. He has led that team in goals, assists, and points as poor defenseman for the last 4 years. He's been in 3 All-Star games in the National Hockey League, and he is one they look for a big shot from the point.
Noticed one shift in position. Mark Howe, as we noted, playing defense. He has been used as a winger on a line that also includes Tom Gorence. Puck bounced along, and trying to hold in was done, but they rule a delayed offside call, and so the face-off to come to the neutral zone. We should make mention of the fact that the rules are predominantly those that our fans would be familiar with, except that in the case of a fighting major penalty, that player is ejected. Otherwise, icing and the rest is all what we've grown accustomed to watching with professional hockey in the United States. Out to the center ice area, throwing it back in is Vasily Pervukin, and into the corner to play is Maltsev. Maltsev watched there, got one in front for a quick shot that's turned away by Esposito off Golikov. In the corner, pass misfires away from Golikov once more and away from Maltsev. It's played up the boards, batting it one-handedly. Out to the center ice area for the U.S. was McClanahan, but back ahead comes the Soviet Union to circle at center ice. They like to lure the opponent into those circular passing plays and try to get them to follow them around on the ice. And when they do that, oftentimes they can get that break with the man advantage. No score in the game, just 3 minutes gone here in this first period of play as Bob Miller sends it back into the Soviet zone, and Tretiak gave it right up to Dave Christian. Christian behind, centered one to Gorence, and a shot was stopped by Tretiak. Nearly a goof by the Soviet Union, and ahead now with it is Sportsov. Sportsov going back behind the net, checked off the play. Alexander Sportsov getting it back to the point for a Fedosov's drive. Save Esposito on the rebound in front to Langway. Langway cleared, but Klukov kept it and got help from Fedosov to give it back to the point for a drive. That hit a couple of sprawling players toward the front of the goal. In the corner with it is Komotov. Tried to center, but a player taken down, and a penalty coming up to Ken Morrow. 16:26 left in the first period. We have no score. Krutov on the face-off, but sees the U.S. win it. Mark Howe behind the goal. Sends it around. Kasatonov kept it in. It's sent off the corner boards, and back it comes toward the Soviet point to be kept in there by Kasatonov. His pass, though, flagged down and sent back by Mark Howe. So it's Fedosov to set up, regarded as the Bobby Orr of hockey in the Soviet Union. Good puck handler, good scorer as well as an offensive and defensive defenseman. And Fedosov gets a chance here, but lost it to Johnson for a shot. It's stopped by Tretiak. 2 Soviet mistakes early in the game, and this one a rare thing for them while they have the power play. Ahead now with it is Makarov. Makarov given a stiff check by Langevin, but loose in front. Larionov with a pass off a skate and just wide of the net. Behind, it's poked around by Krutov, and it flops high into the air back into the Soviet zone, and so Fedosov will go back to get that.
The Soviet players use their feet almost as well as their skates, Mike, as that pass was taken by that skate with that forward.
This time it's Fatorik with a chance, but plays it wisely back to center ice as there were Soviets all around, and now Langway's pass just misses Fatorik, and Fedosov goes back to play. Fedosov around to Vladimir Krutov for the Soviet Union with 42 seconds left on the power play. No score first period, just over 15 minutes to go. Into the zone, carrying it. A pass went off the skate of Kapustin to the corner. Sergei Kapustin playing it there. Got it to Makarov. Makarov in the corner, wedged to the boards, and with that a halt to play.
Makarov was the leading scorer in the Soviet Union this year, picking up 42 goals in just 45 games, and that's quite an impressive statistic, Mike. And so he'll be a big man on that power play if they could ever get it on track. They played earlier in the week against Czechoslovakia and had a lot of power play opportunities, but couldn't get unleashed.
But they really broke loose in their second game, scoring on 4 of 5 opportunities. Shepelev gets it to the point to Vasiliev. Vasiliev watches the traffic in front, still keeps now to Shalamov. Shalamov, cross-ice pass, went off the stick of Babinov. Poked back along by Warren Miller to center ice. Fatorik defended there by Vasiliev. Fatorik keeps trying, but Vasiliev controlling back in his own zone. Brings right across now to Shalamov, but his pass came right to Mark Howe, who heads it right back to Fatorik. Fatorik just dragging the puck to keep possession. Then had it brushed off his stick by Shepelev, but right to Fatorik. Fatorik tried to get in front, but it was defended away by Shepelev as penalty time has expired. Two teams back at full strength. The U.S. looking much the sharper unit this afternoon. Langevin clearing, but not out off the near boards. Moving into play is Vasiliev. Around the corner to Shepelev, then in front to Shalamov. Shalamov with a forehand pass in front, and a backhander is stopped by Esposito. The big play in front made off of Vladimir Krutov, and a halt to play. With 14:02 left in the first period, the Soviets nothing, the U.S. nothing.
Esposito is carrying a 4.50 goals against average in the tournament so far, but he has been tested severely throughout most of the games.
Maltsev and Broughton on this face-off test. Rod Langway prevailing. Langway's pass off the skate of Broughton. Maltsev controls. Nice drop pass over to Golikov, but then that play breaks down, and the U.S. sends it right back toward the Soviet line. Bilyadinov clearing to the U.S. line, and Langway playing it there. His pass again flagged down by Bilyadinov of the Soviet Union. Out at center ice to Drezhetsky, one of the shiftier scorers on this team and more prolific in a low-scoring Soviet Union unit thus far in the Canada Cup. Still Drezhetsky working for it, but coming up with it is Dave Christian, only to lose to Drezhetsky once more. Then a bump put on him by Ken Morrow, but Drezhetsky keeps it back to Bilyadinov for a drive. That one nicely blocked and sent ahead by Langway, and cleared to center ice by Broughton across to McClanahan, then to Talafus. Talafus tried to clear, then a big drive on the play by Kristov, and blocking that one is Tretiak. Kristov working the corner, leaned on there, still trying to get a one-hand pass away, but Golikov had him tied up. Digging it out at Broughton. Broughton has Talafus near the front of the goal, but controls it back toward the point. They shove it one another along. Puck kicked ahead by Larson and intercepted by the Soviet Union, and out comes Maltsev, a pass away from Bilyadinov, and it's shot right back into the Soviet zone. 12:45 to go, opening period of play. In case you're just joining us, no score. The U.S. with the better chances, although Tony Esposito has had to make one very prominent save in the game just a moment ago. Still, they work for it behind, and controlling Bilyadinov, wristing one over the glass, and it sails out of play.
It seems like the Soviets have been giving that puck away inside their own zone, Mike. They've made a couple of pretty bad passes up through the middle, and the USA team has been stationed there and have picked them off. Kristov had that excellent opportunity, and Tretiak just got a piece of it with his left skate, or else Kristov would have put the USA on the scoreboard.
Christian with Bob Miller and Gorentz, the unit out, as Langevin's shot is knocked down by a sprawling Sportsov. Center ice, it's Bob Miller tapping it back into the Soviet zone, and over to play that one is Kasatnov. Kasatnov winding the boards to Sportsov, who's checked soundly. Langevin able to keep to Christian, but then Christian's pass bounces back to center ice, and ahead with this one now is Komotov. Komotov moving in with a pass in front too, for a shot that stops off the stick of Glukov, and out to center ice it comes.
Boy, what a save by Esposito, Mike. I'll tell you, he just slid across, and the Soviet winger just took that big shot coming from the backside, and I believe Esposito got it with his trailing stick, the fat part of the stick, or the paddle, which is commonly known, and he just deflected it wide of that open corner, and boy, what a save that was.
Vasiliev at center ice for the Soviet Union. 4 shots so far, and now for the U.S. and now 6 for the Soviet Union in the game, as Esposito blocked that one calmly away. Babinov back in his own zone across to Vasiliev, dumps it by the turning stick of Krutov at center ice, and it's wristed back in by Warren Miller. So Tretiak to play behind to Babinov. Babinov for the Russians to Krutov, whose long pass sails off the boards back into Ken Morrow territory. Morrow behind his own goal with a pass over to Langway. Rod Langway's pass too far at center ice, so Vasiliev will play at his own line. Vasiliev starting to move it back as Russians circle behind him. Puck dumped into the U.S. corner, and Langway will play there. Rod Langway given a bump, backhands it along the boards. Larionov trying to poke it back to the point, helping out Babinov. Babinov given a stiff check there, though. Still trying to keep it in. Babinov sailed one along the blue line, and it comes back to neutral ice, so the Soviets regroup. Krutov brings it right back for the Soviet Union, dropping it off now to Makarov. Makarov nicely by one, trying to turn the corner in front, then chased behind by Dunn. Centered one nonetheless, and Morrow got help from Esposito to make that play. Then Krutov tries to center, but that's hung up in a pair of U.S. skates and then cleared by the point men back down the ice. Tretiak to play it there. Vasiliev skating by. Vasiliev, the granddaddy of Soviet defensemen now, a part of the 72 Canada-Russia series team, and he's been a part of every important series for the Soviet Union since. Langevin with it in his own zone, having some trouble, however, and with it is Shalamov sending one in front, but Dunn able to cut it off, and right back out comes the U.S., and down the wing is Steve Kristoff. Dropping back to Broughton, then to Kristoff, holds the circle, bumped off the play, but still got a shot away that went wide. Langevin forehands one that's blocked in front. Vilyadinov trying to clear, and it's out to center ice, and the Russians hoping for a 2-on-1. Moving in as Kapustin has Shalamov in front, but will have to watch the traffic and give to Shepelev for a shot that's wide. Around the near boards, keeping that was Kristoff. Got a nice pass to Broughton, then across to Talafas, who drops it into the Soviet corner as play continues with 9:48 left in this opening period. We have no score in case you're just joining us. Tony Esposito sets up for Langevin, and Langevin around the defensive boards now. An outlet pass floated free off a stick, so here's a chance for McClanahan, who moves in. McClanahan, though, lost it. It's cleared by Maltsev, but another attempt by Langevin is deflected wide in front. Behind his own net, Robbie Fatorik trying to chop one in front. Loose puck there. Still they scramble for it, and it's flipped away. And the puck comes free to center ice to Maltsev. Maltsev moving on Langevin in the U.S. zone, but offside is called with 9:13 left in period one. There is no score.
Maltsev only 5'10", 172 pounds, but don't let that size fool you. These Soviet players are very strong on their skates.
No Soviet player has more than 2 points so far in the 2 games that have been played. Drozdetsky, one of the more prolific scorers on this team, has been held down as well. Bob Miller, a part of the 76 Olympic team, to Langway, whose pass hit off Gorence, but here's a break for the U.S. Moving in is Christian. And it comes to Gorence for the pass in front that's blocked by the sprawling Fedosov, and Fedosov just turns it to center ice. Ken Morrow back to Langway. Langway slides it up the boards, but Fedosov will play that one away and start toward Ken Morrow. Fedosov able to get into the zone, has a man on the wing, but can't play him because of the defense of Gorence. Along the near boards, to a side will freeze it, and we'll have a halt to play.
Mike, you'll find the difference between the North American referees and the European ones is that the Europeans seem to let a lot of clutching and grabbing an interference go, where they'll call a lot of cross-checking and boarding. Tommy Gorence, member of the Philadelphia Flyers in the National Hockey League, played in Moscow in the Ivestia tournament a few years ago.
And the reference there on your screen to the University of Minnesota. Played for 2 years there for then-coach Herb Brooks. Outlet pass nicely to Mark Johnson. Johnson moving on Vasiliev. Johnson had it poked away, but continued to pass behind the net. Centering toss out in front is cut off and brought right back out to center ice by the Soviets. Ahead now coming is Sportsov. Alexander Sportsov leaned on the play by Dunn and carried to the boards and glass. Langevin starts it right back for the U.S. No score with 8 minutes to go in this opening period of play. Controlling it in as Eves hands over to Johnson, but then he's bumped off the play by Zluktov. Zluktov had it poked away by Johnson, but Vasiliev has it behind. Vasiliev on across to Babinov, and Sergei Babinov headmans up the left wing at center ice to Komotov. Komotov moving on the U.S. line. And a quick shot by Zluktov went wide. Rebound to Komotov. Back on the point, Vasiliev. Forehander stopped by Esposito. Rebound Zluktov. In front to Komotov. Then again a backhander by Sportsov. Stopped by a sprawling Esposito and help in front from the defense. At center ice, Valery Vasiliev. Across now to Zluktov. As the U.S. makes a personnel change, Mark Howe coming out to work on defense with Langevin as Talafas intercepts at center ice and gives on to Kristoff. Nice pass ahead to Broughton for a shot that's kicked out by Tretiak. Talafas keeps it, tees it up for a shot, save, rebound loose in front, but the Soviet defenseman had blocked them off, and a penalty coming up as we have a delayed call on, but Tretiak on the loose puck. 7:02 left in period one. The U.S. to go on a power play. There's no score.
Below side. 12:58 is the time of the penalty of the USSR. Interference will be the call for Fukin. The man picking up the penalty for the Soviets, and the USA will have the first crack at the power play in this period.
Broughton with Kristoff and Talafas. Talafas to work the front of the goal once they get it set up. Langevin 1 point. He lets a shot go that ricocheted off the corner boards and came to Langway. Then to Christoph. Christoph along the boards, double teamed by the Soviets, but still keeps the puck away from Broughton. This one corralled behind the net by Fedosov and sent to center ice. So a minute 40 left on the power play. In case you're just joining us, no score in the game. 6:40 remaining in the first period. That passed dangerously near Maltsev, rescued by Langway, and at center ice on comes the U.S. moving in Christoph, but they rule an offside going in.
Very close. Referee or linesman John D'Amico had that line very well covered. Steve Christoph made an excellent defensive play earlier in the period when it appeared Esposito was down and out, and Russian player had a chance to take the shot. Christoph lifted his stick and took the puck away and carried the U.S. out of danger. But Christoph, a very prolific goal scorer for the Minnesota North Stars. A lot of strategy goes into these games, and you can see Steve Baker, the backup goaltender today to Tony Esposito, charting some plays out there for his coach, Bob Johnson.
U.S. on the power play, a minute 24 to go. Richie Dunn drives it into the Soviet zone, but off to play this is Babinov. Babinov checked there by Johnson, puck freed behind. Still they work for it. And it is Christian up with it. Then he's taken down by Krutov. Christian flipping it behind to Johnson. Out in front is Eves, but not really in much of a position. Now he throws one in front, does Eves, but Vasiliev cut that off and ahead now on the wing to Shalamov. Shalamov moving on Dunn, drops it back to Shepelev. Shepelev lost it off Dunn to the corner, then is checked by Richie Dunn. And there'll be a halt to play and a face-off in the U.S. zone with 52 seconds left in the United States power play.
Well, the Soviets tried to use that drop pass at the blue line quite extensively against the Czechoslovakian team, but it did not work very well. And that time it did, although the U.S. defense moved the play to the corner.
Soviets had the 1-all tie with Czechoslovakia, a very feisty game, and then a fairly easy time of it with Sweden winning 6-3. You'll see highlights of the USA Team Canada game during our first intermission. Langway to the corner, checked there by Vasiliev. Behind it's Babinov driving it along, but Langevin kept it. That one in front, and it was deflected just wide by Langway. Rod Langway fed the point, but not yet arriving was Eves, and so it's Mike Eves back in his own zone across to Langevin, and then too far for Langway. Kasatnov for the Soviets drives it back out again with 20 seconds left on the power play. Then Langevin overskated. Esposito nearly made the move to come out and help out. Puck tossed free at center ice, and the Soviets able to defend it away once more. Shepelov is knocked down, though. Fedosov took a hard hit there from Langevin, and Fedosov will stay down. Langevin will come off. An elbowing call on Dave Langevin. And so, with 5:04 left in the first period, a power play to the Soviets. The score, the Soviets nothing, the U.S. nothing.
Well, Dave Langevin picks up the second penalty to the USA for elbowing at 14:56 when he really decked the Soviet player at the blue line. He got that elbow in very high on Fedosov, knocking him to the ice, and of course the Soviet player made sure that the referee caught the infraction because he stayed right on the ice before the play was called.
Team USA penalty, Langevin, 2 minutes elbowing at 14:56.
14:56 again, the time of that elbowing called to Langevin. The Soviets are on their second power play of the period.
But they'll have to regroup at center ice, and as they do, Bob, is now that they've started the power play, is it a characteristic of the Soviet power play to do a lot of work right near the front of the net and put a big man there, as North American teams tend to do, to block the goaltender?
They try to isolate that shooter on one side, Mike, rather than trying jamming the net.
Oh, we have Krutov passing in the corner to Makarov, who threw a quick one in front past Krutov. Fedosov, though, to Krutov in the corner. Tried to get it out in front to Larionov, but it came back near the point to Kasatnov. Now, Sergei Makarov with it. Back to Alexei Kasatnov. Then to the point. Fedosov, a shot deflected, score! Larionov with the deflection goal, and the Soviets have clicked on a power play to take a 1-0 lead.
Fine passing on the part of the Soviets. The American team in the defensive box with a good shot from the point. And you move that man in front, and what you try to do as a defenseman is get a hold of that stick so that he cannot get that stick on the puck. But The defense at that side had the bad angle on the play, couldn't get in front of him without taking a probably interference call, but as he'd been able to get that stick up, he might not have been able to deflect it, but nonetheless, it was up over Tony Esposito's left shoulder. It's 1-0 Soviet Union.
Vilyadinov with a pass that's sent further by Zhlukov, and it's Langway working back to Tom Gorentz, and Gorentz floats it back into the Soviet zone. To play that Vilyadinov, but he's out-dueled by Christian, whose centering pass was cut off. Zhlukov tried to get out, but good checking by Gorentz frees it for Christian. In front of Bob Miller, and he had a chance and then was knocked down. As that one glanced off him, he was sent to the ice, and very quickly, there'll be another U.S. power play. 3:57 left in the first. The Soviets won, the U.S. nothing. Hander turned away by Tretiak, and in the corner, two players lock up, a man aside. Still, they work for it. Back to the point. It's Dunn, but unable to hold in. Richie Dunn of the Buffalo Sabres gliding behind his own net. U.S. with the power play. They have 1 minute and 30 seconds to go on the man advantage. 3:25 left in this first period of play. Dunn skids one off the boards, connecting with Bob Miller. Miller defended away by Babinoff, but the loose puck to the corner, and up with it Mark Johnson. Johnson, the in-front cross-ice pass away from Talafas, but Talafas plays it on the bounce and is still able to keep. In the corner now, it's Bob Miller back on the point to Dunn. Dunn passed wide of Miller, up against the back of the net, and then in front, a backhander knocked down. Still they jam away at it, but the whistle blown. Close call near the Soviet goal just a moment ago. As Vladislav Tretiak able to get the freeze on the bouncing puck, and you look at it from his vantage point, right from behind the net. Big scramble in front. And with some help coming also from Babinoff, they're able to freeze play. So Tretiak watches this face-off occur to his left. Neil Broughton to draw opposite Drozhetsky, and he's able to clear it away from Reed Larson back down the ice. Larson and Langway the point men with 55 seconds to go on that man advantage. So Reed Larson of the Detroit Red Wings on Team USA gives a hit now to Kristoff, who tries to turn by Kasatonov but can't. Puck cleared along but not out. Kept in for a pass from Broughton to Kristoff, but unable to control is Steve Kristoff, and Kasatonov clears but not out. Larson pinches to get it in the corner to Broughton. Broughton behind the goal, hoping to jam one in front, but Fetisov negates that, and we'll get another whistle and halt to play. And there you see, as we mentioned earlier, a man described as the Bobby Orr of the Soviet Union, Vyacheslav Fetisov. He was promoted from junior hockey to the USSR national team in 1978. Made that jump in 1 year. He had 9 points in the 7 games of the 1980 Olympics, and he has been a part of 3 World Cup champions, including the one this past spring in Sweden. Langway across to Larson. It bounced off his stick, so the U.S. will regroup at center ice, but then Larson gives it away, and Maltsev goes for a skate with it. Alexander Maltsev just controlling the puck and the clock. 12 seconds left on that power play, and the Soviets are going to chew up the remainder of this time. Kasatonov wrists it back down the ice, and Tony Esposito halts it behind. And with that, power play time will tick off the clock. Less than 2 minutes to go in this opening period as the teams go back to full and equal strength. Langevin met with a stiff check, and ahead with this now is Shalamov with Shepelev. Forehand shot by Shalamov, save Esposito, on the rebound came right underneath the sprawling goaltender for another halt to play. A lot has been said about Tony Esposito and the fact that just 25 days ago he became a citizen of the United States. And here you see him make the stop on Shalamov, one of several that he's made in Canada Cup action, and some important ones against Team Canada on Thursday, and very significant ones which helped the victory over Sweden on Tuesday. That was a 3-1 victory by the U.S. over Sweden. Then they lost 8-3 to Canada. Robbie Fatorik moving in at the circle. Flipped one in front. Guided away by Tretiak. Hustling over to play as McClanahan. Took a check from Shepelev, but got it behind. However, taking over there is Babinoff. Outlet pass nicely at center ice. On they come. Shepelev moving into the zone. Shepelev in front. Lost it off his stick. Jammed away by Esposito. And McClanahan circles behind his own goal. McClanahan to Langevin, and Langevin just bats it to center ice. Vasiliev playing there. Vasiliev got it on the turning stick of Shalamov, but his pass was away from Kapustin. Kapustin able to get it away from McClanahan. Took a bit of a bump from Tom Younghands, but the puck comes back across the ice to Shepelev, who glides in. Shepelev rolled it off the corner boards, and Mark Howe goes to play there for the U.S. defense. behind to McClanahan. Rob McClanahan head-manning to Langevin. Langevin at center ice with less than a minute to go in this opening period. Dumps it in, and then the U.S. makes a change, as does the Soviet Union. Robbie Fatorik working on a Soviet player in the corner. Also there was Warren Miller, but the whistle blows and a face-off to occur in the Soviet zone. Well, we have viewers today in Phoenix, and they saw Robbie Fatorik set a United States record for the most points in one season, 113. And we welcome them, as well as our viewers in Boston, Chicago, Detroit, St. Louis, New York, Hartford, Buffalo, the Minneapolis-St. Paul area, and Philadelphia. To the point, Langway, wrist shot in front, blocked down to the ice by Larionov behind the net. U.S. trying to set up once more. Warren Miller in the corner playing. His pass behind to Eaves. Mike Eaves turning with it in the corner, but has it swept away by Pervukin up the wing. The Soviets outlet and start in a possible 2-on-1. Moving in is Vladimir Krutov. Krutov has Larionov in front, but he's defended away as Krutov is chased off behind. Good blocking by the U.S., just negating the Russian opportunities to set up passing plays in front of that goal. Just 10 seconds left in this opening period. Soviets with the only goal of the game. Back out to center ice. They bring it. A pass from Pervukin is ahead to Makarov, but with that play is going to end. We have concluded the first period of our game, and coming up in the intermission, Bobby Taylor will talk with Minnesota-born Philadelphia Flyer Tom Gorham. You'll see highlights of the USA and Team Canada game on Thursday, and Bobby Taylor, the chief, will be back with Team USA General Manager Lou Nanne. They will analyze this opening period. This is the Prism Canada Cup Network. Emmerich reporting. This is the Prism Canada Cup Network.
And you see this fella just slip by our defenseman. Now they always have somebody going for the net. He slides that puck across, and Tony had to move real quickly, and he stacked his pads right there. He made the save, but you get to really expect that from Tony. He's the finest goaltender who's ever played this game.
They had another couple of chances in that period, and one thing, I guess, as a goaltender and as defenseman, you have to be very conscious of the rebounds.
See what he did right there? He just tilted his stick so the puck went to the corner. He had no one in front to clear it away, and he very alertly just moved that puck off to the side out of danger. This is a fine passing play, and then the goal right there. It's just an old hockey school play. The guy comes out of the corner and deflects it in as a fellow shooting. That's where they scored. Here you'll see Trachek make a couple of fine saves. You notice Trachek keeps his feet at all times until he absolutely must go down. He's more of a stand-up goaltender, and he's big and imposing. And right there at the last second, he just went right down. So
there's to Mike Emmerich.
This is not the only Canada Cup game today. Having gotten underway in Winnipeg earlier this afternoon by 1 hour, Sweden playing Finland in a battle of teams that are really going for survival and an outside chance at making the 4-team cut, because Sweden and Finland were both winless in their first two outings. And at 8 o'clock Eastern Time, 7 o'clock Central tonight, Canada will be taking on Czechoslovakia, that also at Winnipeg. Let's take a look at the scoring in the first period. Shots on goal were even at 12, and Larionov deflecting home that power play goal at 15:34. Vyacheslav Fedosov and Alexei Kasatnov received the assists on that play. Power plays were even up at 2 apiece, and the Soviets made good on 1 out of 2. Coming into our game this afternoon, the Soviet power play had tallied 4 out of 10, so that makes them 5 for 12 thus far. The U.S. is 1 for 12. And in penalty killing, the Soviet Union flawless in 11 shorthand situations. The U.S. now with a mark of giving up 2 power play goals out of 12 opportunities that they've had to kill off penalties. There you see the Soviet skaters stepping back onto the ice, and as they come on, we always make a little mental note of the jerseys, because it was during this Canada Cup that the story got out that occasionally Soviet players will swap jerseys during the course of an intermission. And I'm not certain what the purpose for that is, but there was an instance earlier of a couple of Soviet jerseys being shifted, and from this high position, as we see goaltender Vyacheslav Tretiak, that from this high position, they're all red helmeted, and they look pretty much alike. So we just have to take on faith that no switch has been made. Earlier, we also had a story that a couple of the jerseys had come up missing in Winnipeg, and so for that reason, players were having to make shifts. And just before the game, there were 2 changes that are really unusual to a hockey broadcaster, and that is the changing of the first name of players. Earlier we had the information that it was Alexander Drozdetsky, and that has become Nikolai, and Alexander Bilyadinov is Zinachula. So one must be alert for shifts all around, and especially on the ice, and especially, as the U.S. saw, when that Russian team has the power play, as they did in the first period on 2 occasions, scoring the game's only goal. Vladimir Schubert from Czechoslovakia about to drop the puck at center ice between Mike Eves of the U.S. and Larionov, the lone goal scorer in this game from the Soviet Union. U.S. controlling, and at center ice, Warren Miller gets some help from Langway, who hammers one right on goal from center ice. Easy play there, and a centering pass out in front, just misfired. Had Warren Miller been able to get the stick down in control. Cleared, not out. Morrow a chance. Pad stopped Tretiak, and the rebound to Krutov. Krutov's pass in the glove, then out again of Larionov at center ice. Moving ahead with it now is Kasatonov, but he ran into Morrow at the U.S. line, and so the Americans play the puck out of their own zone. Fetisov at center ice with a pass over on the far wing to Makarov. Makarov unable to get anything going, and so Mike Eves just flips it back out again. Just underway in period 2 from wherever you're watching across the United States, USA and Soviet Union, and the Soviets leading the game 1-0. Langway behind his own goal with a pass out in front that was off the stick of Johnson, and Fetisov tried to keep it in, but his pass went off Eves, and back to the neutral zone. The Soviets regroup. Shift change made there. Eves is off, and Broughton comes on for the U.S. As playing it is Shepelev. Shepelev's pass came right to Warren Miller, who starts into the Soviet zone. Pestered there from behind by Kapustin. He dropped it off for Broughton. Broughton has no one in front just yet. Christoph moves behind and takes the pass from Broughton. Steve Christoph back to the point to Langevin. Langevin had trouble controlling, though, and then put a couple of players offside. That delayed call wiped out, though, as Kapustin advances into the U.S. zone. Kapustin had it tapped off his stick by Mark Howe. Then help came from Talapus, but the puck checked back to the corner. Langevin handling it there for Team USA. His pass misfires, and it comes out to Kapustin, who couldn't get a shot away because of the checking of Talapus. Then Broughton saw that pass from Mark Howe go by him, and Babinov back to play. Babinov onto Vasiliev, then up the wing boards past Kapustin. It's kept by Howe to Broughton and quickly to Talapus. Talapus looking for traffic in front, gave it to the back to Howe for a shot. Score! Neil Broughton deflected one that Tretiak grabbed, and then on the rebound pumps it in. And the United States has tied the game at 1. You watch it once more as Mark Howe's wrister deflected by Broughton. Tretiak saw the rebound in front, and Broughton quickly stuffs it home. So the game is knotted at 1 each as you see this play set up once more. Neil Broughton, who got a goal in his first NHL game and was named the outstanding college player, while at the University of Minnesota just this past year, has gotten the first U.S. goal in this important game in the Canada Cup with the Soviet Union. Howe and Talapus get the assists as Langevin's try bounces to the boards. Rolled along, but Langevin kept it again for one that sailed wide. Alexander Baltsev playing for the Soviet Union. Back to Bilyadinov, and then even deeper as the U.S. checking game improves. Soviets normally tend to try to pick up the pace of the game from period to period, but they haven't been able to thus far as play is halted at center ice.
Big goal by Broughton, Mike. And he is an excellent goal scorer. As you mentioned, he played at the University of Minnesota under former Olympic coach Herb Brooks. In fact, Brooks mentioned the fact that he was probably the best player that he'd ever coached in college hockey.
Quite a statement when you consider the number of players who have come from the University of Minnesota. Back to play this is Fetisov. Fetisov leaned on as he bounced toward the corner. That was Dave Christian doing the checking. Zhluktov gives a head to Fetisov at center ice. He moves on Ken Morrow, giving back to Zhluktov now, the big 206-pound winger. Backhander score! Victor Zhluktov with a soft backhander that found its way into the net, and it's 2-1 the Soviets.
Puck was really misplayed by goaltender Esposito as Zhluktov was just moving and throwing the puck towards the net. And Esposito was handcuffed on the play. Just got a piece of it, but not enough as it found its way through, and this game is back in front for the USSR 2-1, but a seemingly easy shot. Handcuffed Tony O.
Hopefully not a significant goal for the Soviet Union. It certainly is one that has to take some of the wind away from the U.S. They'll need to come back here, as they had just scored to tie the game, and then the soft one. Puck cleared down the ice, and we'll have an icing call. So back near Tony Esposito, the faceoff will come.
2:52, the time of that goal. Fedosov will pick up the lone assist on the goal.
This is when those inspirational leaders have to pick things up at the bench to get a team back going again. Although from your conversation with Tom Gorence, Bob, I had very little indication that there was anything but high spirits among this U.S. team.
Oh, definitely.
Here's Krutov with a shot, went off the stick of Eves and is played behind by Mark Howe. Howe to the corner to Langevin. Langevin's pass up the wing flicked off the stick of Mark Johnson, so at center ice the Soviets retrieve. Krutov saw that pass go off his stick, so Mark Howe is back to play. Krutov the forechecker. Soviets leading in the game 2-1. Early part of the second period, 16.5 minutes to go. Puck thrown back to the Soviet line, and Sergei Babanov plays it there. Across now to Sergei Makarov. Soviets regrouping now deeper in their own zone as Krutov plays. Along it comes to Makarov. He moves on the U.S. line with 2 men back. Makarov to play back behind the net. Centered one in front. Score! Sergei Kapustin. Or was it Krutov? It was Krutov in front, who took the centering pass from Makarov and ripped it home.
You really have to be conscious of those players coming in late on the play, because the Soviets love to use that drop pass, and it proved to be successful on this rush up the ice. Makarov moving in all the way in behind Esposito, and then just dropping it back. They had the whole U.S. team looking and watching the puck carrier. That allowed the Soviet player to come in and had the whole open net to put the team up by 2.
Shepelev's pass does not connect, but Shepelev is knocked to the ice as he went to play the rebound off the boards, and with that play is halted. Doesn't appear to be any penalty coming up, but we do get a stoppage of play with 15:50 to go in the second period. The Soviets 3 and the U.S. 1.
But some question their offensive ability.
This one at center ice hops right back in. Larson gets help from Talapus to play it cross ice now. Moving in with it is Christoph. Christoph menaced by Bilyadinov to the corner. Bilyadinov throws a hit on Christoph. Still they play for the loose puck, jamming away, but Bilyadinov able to freeze, and then some conversation. And really the first set two of the game, and then stepping in was Dean Talapus to reinforce the U.S. position.
Well, I think you'll find that a lot of occasions there'll be a lot of pushing and shoving, but both teams, in fact all the teams in this tournament, are well aware of the fact that if you do drop your gloves and fight, that you'll be out of this game or the game that you're fighting in. So that you might find an awful lot of pushing and shoving and a lot of talking to each other. Even though you can't understand the words, you can certainly understand the gestures and the tone of voice.
Broughton goes with Sportsoff, and the U.S. controls. McClanahan flipping one that went over the side glass and out of play.
Well, Mike, I understand that we've had some video problems earlier in the game, and I hope that everything is all cleared up now so that we can still bring you an excellent hockey game, even though the USSR is behind, or is up rather, 2 goals, 3-1.
Neil Broughton and Vladimir Golikov to go for this face-off, and from the tanglement the Soviets clear it out, and Richie Dunn goes back to play. Dunn for the U.S. flipping one high that was gloved out of play by Alexei Kasatnov, and so once again a stoppage of play and the face-off at center ice. No idea of an attendance figure yet here today. We will have one before we leave the air. Normally that comes to us in the third period, but the previous high was 11,700 and change for Thursday night's game, the highlights of which you saw during the first intermission, USA and Canada. Neil Broughton, who has the USA's only goal with a pass that went by Christoph down the ice, and once again we're going to get an icing call and a stoppage of play. 15 shots for the Soviets and 16 for the U.S. thus far, but the Soviets lead 3-1.
Well, Alexei Kasatnov is one of the younger players brought over by Coach Victor Tikhonov in this Canada Cup Series. Just 21 years of age. He plays with the Army Club in the Soviet Union. Pretty big kid, 6'1", 200 pounds.
Vasiliev is the elder statesman at 32 years of age. Maltsev also 32. Makarov is 30. Play near the front of the net, but block there, and the puck shot back down, and hustling back is Kasatnov as he touches up. We have an icing call once more. You know, at one time, Bob, as we take a look at one of the coaches,
John Cunningham, who has just signed on as the assistant coach to the Hartford Whalers in the National Hockey League. Head coach Bob Johnson, coaching the University of Wisconsin, the winningest coach in collegiate hockey.
Impressive record of .332, 164, and 22. 3 NCAA championships. Get on to that other thought I had a moment ago once we get another stoppage of play concerning the age of Soviet players. But it's Ken Morrow behind his own net for the U.S. Double teamed there, but able to wind it away to Langway. Rod Langway with a pass at center ice to Fatorik. Fatorik able to headman it up the wing. Moving in is McClanahan, but he can't get a shot away as he's chased off by Vasiliev. Along the boards, Komotov able to work it out to Zluktov, but his pass came ahead now to Sportsov. Alexander Sportsov trying to turn it from behind, but Langway defended nicely there, and back comes the U.S. Rob McClanahan, a member of that 1980 Olympic team, giving on to Robbie Fatorik, but it's poked away from him calmly by Vasiliev at the Soviet line. This one bounces off Babinov to the neutral zone. U.S. still locking up at center ice, hoping to get possession back, but Sportsov able to get it to Zluktov. Tommy Gorance knocked that away, but Sportsov recovers quickly and brings it back in. Wrist shot was wide of the net. Off the boards, Babinov pinching in to keep play in the U.S. defensive zone, but all the way the boards it rolls to Fatorik at center ice, lost to Zluktov. Then Fatorik able to get it right back again. Seems to be some action away from the puck that the fans are oohing and eyeing about as Fatorik was checked to the boards, the puck to Langway, then right back to Fatorik, who has Gorance to the left of the goal. Robbie Fatorik in front, but that one kicked away by Vasily Pervukin, and Pervukin gives it to Krutov. Then on its center ice to Makarov. Has Zluktov on the wing. Zluktov tried to return pass, but it's off Langway, and Rod Langway just slides it along to Bob Miller, then back again to Langway. 13:05 left in the second period. In case you're just joining us, the score of the game 3-1, the Soviet Union leading. 1-1 after one, and the Soviets getting 2 here in the second. Vasiliev winds one around the boards, but it comes freely to center ice. Mark Howe playing there in some traffic in front of the U.S. bench. Flipped one in, but it's quickly brought out by Vasiliev. His pass back checked away by Bob Miller and dropped right back in the Soviet zone again. Vasily Pervukin to play it along the boards, past Vasiliev and also past Warren Miller of the U.S., so Langevin goes back to play. Dave Langevin's pass by Bob Miller, and so the Soviets bring it back. Makarov's pass came right to Bob Miller as he was busy avoiding a check. Mark Howe's pass too stiff for Langevin, and so the two teams just trading possession at center ice during a good deal of the last couple of minutes. Larionov thrust toward the net, was wiped out, and back comes Warren Miller. Miller's pass off the boards, poked free by Vilyadinov, but kept by Mark Johnson to Warren Miller. Warren Miller tried to get to the front of the net, but was defended there. Miller after it, but getting it as Vilyadinov will not clear it by Larson. Larson loads the gun, a shot knocked down. Rebound brought back up by Pervukin as he's hooked to the ice. With it is Johnson at the neutral zone for the USA. Johnson slugging it right back into the Soviet zone as play continues, moving it along as Pervukin. He's hit soundly there by Warren Miller, and the puck cleared back where Richie Dunn plays at the U.S. line. Dunn with a pass on the turning stick of Mike Eaves. Eaves with Talipus moving to the front of the goal. Plays that one off the boards, does Talipus. Talipus chased there with the high stick of Shepelev. Dropped it toward the corner, but it's poked away by Pervukin. Along the board still, they fight for it, and Johnson able to get it as far as the point. Then Dunn lost his balance, and ahead come the Soviets. Here's a 2-on-1 possibility. Moving in with it is Shalamov. Wrist shot just wide. And around it goes where Shepelev plays. Shepelev dropped it for Shalamov, but it was brought right back out to center ice by Johnson. Moving on in is Mark Johnson. Had it poked away from behind, but still able to control in the traffic. Then Shepelev kicked it free, but with it is Langevin. Langevin for the U.S. as he gets Talipus in front with a forehand stiff shot that rattled off the glass. Kapustin with a forehand pass at center ice. Across it comes to Shalamov with Shepelev the trailer. Shalamov at the circle in front, and Kapustin banned on it. Rebound played by the U.S., and they just slide it out to center ice and out of harm's way. Along with it is Fedosov. He's given a check by Rod Langway after having sustained one earlier, and here's a break for Talipus. Talipus goes in, and a shot blocked. Rebound, Christoph shot blocked. Loose in front, Fedosov clears to the corner. First Talipus and then Christoph, and it appeared they might have had the second. And then a forehand shot stopped by Esposito off Shalamov as play picks up. Out for the U.S. at center ice is Larson, but his pass misfires into the Soviet zone, and Fedosov goes back to play. Fedosov moving for the Soviet Union, which leads in the game 3-1. Ahead now to Golikov. Golikov trying to get by the defense, trying to get some help there from Larionov, but that didn't pan out, and the puck cleared by the U.S. all the way back down the ice. And after about 5 minutes of continuous action, we have a halt to play. 9:57 left in the second. Soviet 3, U.S. 1.
But 9:57 remains in this second period. 3-1 to USSR, and the United States is starting to come on.
Zhlukov and Fatorik for the faceoff. Zhlukov, a rising shot, and that wound up right in the goaltender's pads. And Bob, that's probably why when they teach goaltending, they say keep those things together and hold that side off.
That's what they say, Mike. Keep the legs closed and the eyes open. A lot of times goaltenders get it reversed.
Esposito will watch this one again to his right as we look camera left, and on with this one is Babinoff. His pass clicked loose and came up to Mark Howe. Howe head manning at center ice. Got it along to McClanahan. Quick wrist shot turned away by Trechek. McClanahan digging behind the net. Tied up there by Babinoff, but he got a pass loose to Younghans in the corner. Younghans tried to center, but that one deflected away by Babinoff, and out come the Soviets. Luktov at center ice, across on the wing to Sportsov. Sportsov had it poked away, still not out of the U.S. defensive zone, and now poked free to center ice. Soviets regroup with Sergei Babinoff playing it at his own line. Pass deflected up the wing by Luktov, but sent ahead by Fatorik, and they rule an illegal pass on that play, and so that halts the action with 9:16 left in the second.
Rob McClanahan played with the Buffalo Sabres in the National Hockey League out of St. Paul. He was a third pick from University of Minnesota, but he's the guy that scored a very big goal for the U.S. team in that gold medal winning year. In fact, it was the winning goal against Finland, the team they had to beat in order to win the gold medal.
Larson to Bob Miller, then on to Dave Christian. Rolls it into the Soviet zone. Gorentz after it, but arriving first Pervukin to clear it toward the corner. Bob Miller took a bump, but got it to Gorentz, then behind the net to Christian. Christian, as Bob Miller is taken down in front of the goal, couldn't get the centering pass free, of course, because he was flat on the ice as a ripper goes wide from Richie Dunn. Krutov at center ice saw his pass bounce back in off Bob Miller. Then play goes toward the U.S. line. Richie Dunn to Christian on the wing to Bob Miller. Opposite wing to Gorentz. Gorentz trying to get through the traffic, but it's swept away by Bilyadinov. Bilyadinov able to work it along the boards, but Reed Larson again to hold it in. To Christian behind the goal. To Bob Miller, who centered one off the back of the net. Coming across is Larson in the slot. His pass was off Tom Gorentz, and Krutov will start it back out to Larionov. Then back again to Vladimir Kucherov. Left it behind for Sergei Makarov. Makarov had it poked away by Christian, and for the U.S., Bob Miller clears it high into the air. It pops back into the Soviet zone. In case you're just tuning in, 3-1 the score in favor of the Soviet Union with 8:10 left in period 2. The U.S. has outshot the Soviets 18-17, but here's a chance for Shepelev in front, and it went just wide. Around the boards, Warren Miller clears, but it's kept at the point by Kasatonov. Off the boards, Langway to play for the U.S. defense to Warren Miller again, and this time Miller succeeds in sending it to center ice. Back along come the Soviets again. Fedosov left it off to Shepelev, who had a very close call just now. Kapustin, a rising shot, blocked by Esposito, and we're going to get a whistle and a penalty call. 7:43 left in the second. The Soviets 3, the USA 1.
So there you see the contrast in calls and the way the referees from each continent see it.
For a while, the U.S. seemed to be coming on, Bob, and then the Soviets just got a couple of good chances, and they have the man advantage now. Robbie Fatorik trying to consume some of that time, then took a hard lick from Fedosov, and Fatorik has something to say about that. And the referee, Vladimir Subert, is motioning one player off the ice. A slashing call has been assessed to Fedosov.
Fedosov, as Robbie Fatorik was actually trying to get away from Fedosov as he was trying to rag the puck at center ice, but the Czechoslovakian referee was there to pick up a slashing infraction. He'll have the penalty come at 12:27. Fedosov, 2 minutes for slashing.
12:27.
Christian and Gorentz for the shorthanded USA team up front as Mark now tries to penetrate the defense. Tretiak shuttles it to the corner. Banked off for Vasiliev, who's locked up with Christian behind. Then Gorentz comes over to help out. Tom Gorentz wheels out near the blue line, still controlling and looking for a pass to Langevin. Then a return to Gorentz. Then to the left of the goal to Christian. Back for the point, but by Langevin and back down the ice. So Esposito sets it up for New York Islanders defenseman Dave Langevin. Along it comes to Christian. Headman's at center ice. Across to Mark Howe. Here's Howe breaking in on the wing to Goran. Oh, and the shot tipped wide. Maltsev for the Soviet Union. Both teams a man short, as a close call there for the U.S. Maltsev moving back in. Gets by one. Maltsev in front. Got it to Babinoff, but that one slipped off Esposito and was wide. Babinoff behind the goal to the corner. Still controlling the puck, looking things over. Both teams a man short as Maltsev tried to get to the front, but was tripped up on the play by Langevin, and the puck sailed all the way back down the ice. Both teams are short a man, so there will be an icing call here, and that will stop the clock with 6:23 to go in the second. The Soviets 3, the U.S. 1.
3-1, the Soviets lead the USA. We have 6:23 remaining in the second period.
Krutov and Mike Eaves for the face-off, picked up by Larson. Larson hammers one around the boards. Mark Johnson checked off the puck. So at center ice, the Soviets regroup again. Vasily Prevukin back to Krutov. Soviets don't mind going deep to circle, hoping to lure players into following them. That seemed to be what happened on the second Soviet goal, the first one of this period. They lead in this game 3-1. Moving in now is Krutov. Krutov leaned on by Dunn. Puck out in front, but Makarov unable to get much on that one, and so the U.S. brings it back. At center ice, Richie Dunn at the Soviet line. Dunn looks to the front where Johnson is, sent one on goal that was casually blocked away by Tretiak. Larson tried to shoot one in front, but Krutov was checking tightly there. Vladimir Krutov for the Soviet Union passed it behind Makarov. U.S. with a power play that has just 3 seconds left now, as turning with it is Richie Dunn. Now that penalty time has expired. The team's back at full strength. In the corner, it's Talapus. Talapus trying to turn away from the defender Makarov. Talapus still controlling behind the goal, has a man out in front. It's Neil Broughton, but Talapus checked off, so Broughton helps out, but then lost, and it's cleared out by Fedosov back into the USA zone. Dunn racing back for this, and we'll have an icing call. 5:12 left in the second period. The Soviets 3, the United States 1.
.5:12 remains, 3-1 the score.
Fans starting to talk it up here as they did Thursday night to fire up Team Canada. Time will bear out whether it will work once more. It's looped off at center ice. Tried to get it on the wing to Sportsov. That didn't work, but a quick forehand shot went wide off Kasatnov, and the U.S. will control behind its own goal in the person of Rod Langway. Langway with a pass on the stick of Dean Talapus, poked from him by Slukov. Slukov on second effort, able to drive it deeper into the U.S. zone. Langway getting set up again. Off Talapus, came to Slukov, a shot stopped by Esposito, and the rebound cleared ahead to Neil Broughton. Broughton ahead nicely to Christoph on the wing. Christoph taken out of the play on a check from behind by Kasatnov, and he'll come off on a minor. 4:36 left in the second period. The USA to go on the power play, trailing 3-1.
Now is the time to get the goal to bring them within one.
Eaves, Johnson, Bob Miller, Richie Dunn, and Christoph, and it's, Christian rather, are the men working on the power play for the U.S., and with it is Bob Miller in the corner. Miller checked by Prevukin from behind, then hurtling to the ice is Eaves. To play this is Maltsev, sailing it around the boards, hoping to cut that one off, and doing so is Christian, driving it off the corner boards. Maltsev to play there, but frightened away a bit by Richie Dunn, so in the corner it's Eaves trying to clear. Help from Dunn, right back to Eaves in front. Bob Miller off his stick, but to Christian for a shot. That one sailed wide. In the corner it's Johnson to play. On the point to Dunn for a drive. Deflected in front, but wide. Hammered off the boards by Vilyadinov, but kept by Christian. In the slot, another shot. Save on the play. Rebound in front. Still they poke away at it, and it's swept to the corner by Vasiliev. In the corner to get this one is Johnson. Mark Johnson gives it to the back to Christian, then right back to Johnson again. Johnson to the right of the goal to Bob Miller, then again to the point to Christian. Christian back to Bob Miller. Tried to finesse one in front, but it was cut off by the Soviets, and it's Golikov at center ice. Alexander Golikov just eating up some of that power play time. 52 seconds left on the minor penalty to the Soviets' Kasatnov for hooking. Ahead now comes Richie Dunn, but as he stepped in, offside was the call on the play. 3 minutes, 21 seconds showing on the clock. That's the time remaining in the second period. As you see, Richie Dunn, who had 2 assists in the U.S. 3-1 opening game win over Sweden. First 2 years, Richie played for the Buffalo Sabres and the Hershey Bears in the American League. Missed only 1 game in the last 2 seasons, and showed against Team Canada that he had a good hard shot nearly fooling Mike Liut from out near the blue line, just bringing the puck in. It wasn't a screen shot at all, but a very good hard one by the Boston, Massachusetts product. Reed Larson giving on to Langway, then into the zone. They wing it once more. Power play still on for the U.S. 35 seconds left in the man advantage, but the Soviets clear. Soviets leading in this game 3-1. As we mentioned, they tied the Czechoslovakians 1-1 in the opening game and were forced by their coach to watch that game 3 times the following day. So they do take losses seriously, as they did at Lake Placid. In the corner with this is Talafas. Talafas out in front. And that one trickled through the crease wide. Neil Broughton with it there, and saw it stripped of him by Shepelev and sent back down the ice. So Esposito sets it up for Rod Langway. Penalty time just about to expire, and it is off the clock now. The two teams at equal strength, and a U.S. power play opportunity goes asunder as playing it at center ice is Shalamov. Shalamov flipping it ahead to Shepelev. Shepelev cruising toward the circle, watched there by Langevin. Bumped on the play, still the puck loose behind. Shepelev flipped one in front. Highwin unable to hold that with Shalamov. Neil Broughton's pass, though, flagged down on the play by Komotov. Komotov heads behind the net and to the corner. Komotov looks, tries to finesse his way, and does from Rod Langway. Still some nice skating, but then Langway plays the body and takes him out. So it's Neil Broughton back for the United States with just over 2 minutes left in this middle period. Vasiliev tossed away by Larson, but then the two of them check along the board. So Fedosov gets it for the Soviet Union. On to Zhlukov, then back to Fedosov once more. Fedosov for the Soviets at center ice to Zhlukov, who brings it in with Komotov. Fedosov with a shot. That one cracked off the boards loudly, and ahead at center ice with this one now is Larson. Reed Larson picking his way through the Soviet traffic, let a shot go, and that one trickled wide, and so to play that one is Kasatonov. Rolled it along the boards. Robbie Fatorik kept for a moment, then it was knocked from him at center ice to Komotov. Andrei Komotov shot it back into the USA zone, and it's Langevin throwing it off to Fatorik. Robbie Fatorik behind his own goal, the captain of the USA squad. Needham, Massachusetts native, tossed it to center ice, but it's thrown right back by Kasatonov, and on the stick of Krutov, but then stripped of him by Tom Younghans, then given right back to Krutov. Vladimir Krutov lost again to Younghans, thanks to the help of Fatorik in checking, and so the Soviets give chase again as we enter the final minute of play in the second period. 20 shots for the USA, 19 for the Soviets, but USA trails in the game 3-1. Soviets once again set up back near their own line as John D'Amico, the linesman, hops out of the way. Puck tapped free, and Tom Gorans tries to get in nicely by Fedosov, but then Gorans sits to the ice with a thud, and Kasatonov gets it at center ice to Krutov, then over on the far wing to Makarov. Makarov right back to Krutov, poked off his stick, and Dave Christian heads back out. Christian to the Soviet line, trying to move along. Kasatonov, loose puck in front, swept away, and it bounces right on a Soviet stick. Bringing it out is Sergei Makarov to Larionov, and right back to Makarov again. Makarov to the corner, centered one out in front, but that one's on the stick of Christian. Dave Christian with 20 seconds left in the period, bringing it back along with Bobby Miller. Christian's pass, though, was by Miller to the corner. Miller checked off, and the puck taken by Bilyadinov, and ahead now it's Krutov at center ice to Makarov, then back to Krutov as the final seconds wind off the clock, and we're going to end this second period of play with a chance toward the net that's negated by a poke check, and the score will be at the end of 2 periods, the USSR 3, the USA 1. This is the Prism Canada Cup Network.
3-1 the score after 2 periods of play. USSR leading the United States. And with me is Neil Broughton. 3-1 the score after 2 periods of play, and with us in this
from the point, something we've got to do a little more right here, because when we get some shots in the net, we might be able to get a rebound. But Trechek saved that one. However, a little later on, here's a fine play. You're going to see the goal set up because Mark Howe, back in the point, takes a look right after he receives his pass from Talafas. He sees Broughton in front, and he passes it to him. Broughton deflected the first one, got his own rebound to score, and that was our first goal. It looked like we were really coming, but then this one is the third Russian goal, and actually the second Russian goal when Tony just missed it a little bit. He was maybe looking back towards the pass a bit, but it just sort of was like a knuckleball, went in, put them ahead. Here's a real fine play, but if you notice our people coming back, they have their backs to Krutov, number 9. As Makarov's going the outside, Krutov right there just coming into your pictures all alone. You've got to pick that man up. They always go to the net alone, and it was just an open goal for him. As a matter of fact, Mark Howe and Tony both almost got a piece of it because it looked like he relaxed. Here's a big save on Talafis as he looked like he was pulling away. Tretiak not only makes the first save, but Christoph on the second one is deflected off the defenseman's stick. And that's just the way things have gone near the end of that period for us.
Take a look at the scoring in the second period of play. It was Neil Broughton for the United States, converting from Howe and Talafus at 1:57, but 55 seconds later, Victor Schluchthoff getting his first of the Canada Cup competition to make it a 2-1 game, and then shortly after that, Vladimir Krutov at 3:55 from Makarov and Babinov. Fedosov getting the lone assist on the goal by Schluchthoff. We have one other game being played this afternoon. It is nearly over in Winnipeg, Sweden, nearly making it over for Finland for all practical purposes in the tournament. 5-0 late in the third period. Both of those teams entered today's game winless in 2 outings, and it would be almost impossible for Finland to come back and gain a berth in the semifinals. Again, to review, 6 teams are entered. Each plays the other once. Then they compute standings, just as you would in any professional hockey league. 2 points to a win, 1 for a tie, none for a loss. First against the 4th place team, second against the 3rd place team in the semifinals, with the final game a week from Sunday in Montreal. There you see the games that are coming up. Sweden, Finland, we just gave you. Tonight, Canada playing against Czechoslovakia. On Monday in Montreal, Canada versus Sweden, and in Winnipeg, a pair of games, the Czechs against the Americans and the Soviets versus Finland. We might mention, too, for those of you who are going to be following the standings of the Canada Cup, that should a team be tied with another for a position in the standings, the tiebreaker is how that team did against the tied team in the preliminary round. If there was a tie, as in the case of the Soviets and Czechoslovakia, then they go to a formula of plus-minus, with the team having the largest positive difference between goals scored and goals yielded, or if both happen to be in the negative column, the one having the smallest negative number between goals for and goals yielded. Leading scorers in Canada Cup competition, there's no surprise, all Canadians. Wayne Gretzky with 4 and 3 for 7. Gilbert Perreault, his line mate, 2 and 5 for 7. And then Trottier and Bossy, part of the New York Islander line that Scotty Bowman has, with Clark Gillies. Guy Lafleur, the other member of the Gretzky-Perreault line, also among the top scorers in Canada Cup competition. Leading goaltender is Carol Lang of Czechoslovakia, who, going into the 3rd day of play, had the lowest goals against average of 1.0. Mike Liut of Team Canada with a 1.50. We mentioned that the United States will be playing in Winnipeg on Monday against Czechoslovakia. Then it will wrap up the preliminary round of Canada Cup competition on Wednesday, playing in Montreal against Finland. Vladimir Schubert, the referee, is just about set to drop the puck to start the 3rd period. Only 1 goal scored in the first, that by Larionov. And then second period goals to Neil Broughton of the U.S., followed up by Victor Schluchthoff and Vladimir Krutov of the Soviet Union. And that's where we stand, 3-1, as we are underway in the 3rd period. And Rod Langway quickly across to Morrow, but his pass chipped away by Larionov at center ice, and Fedosov tried to connect with Makarov, but back into the U.S. zone it goes. With it is Langway behind his own goal for the United States. Pass over to Eaves at center ice. Mike Eaves rolling it off the boards, hoping to link up there. It came right out in front, but was tapped away harmlessly to the corner by Kasatonov. Still, they're unable to get out, though. Then Johnson bumped, and the puck squirts free to center ice. Makarov going for it there with Langway, and emerging with it Kasatonov. Kasatonov for the Soviet Union, for Makarov, but it's by both him and Christoph deep into the U.S. zone. Rod Langway playing there. Pass one by Warren Miller that's to the point to Fedosov. Fedosov pass in front to Shepelev, but that one didn't work out, and Christoph gives out at center ice just by Eaves. Fedosov starts it right back the other way, giving it across to Drozdetsky. Drozdetsky with a shot that went off Langway to the corner, and along the board still they work for it. A tie-up right near the referee Schubert, and emerging with it is Christoph. Christoph for the USA squad, shooting it into the zone, but quickly cleared out to Drozdetsky. Drozdetsky moving on the defense, across now to Shalamov. Shalamov in the slaughter shot, and that one bounced wide off Esposito. In the corner, it's Langevin. Langevin for Team USA. Pestered there by Drozdetsky. Gives it back behind his own net to Mark Howe, who staggers for a moment, then hands back by Langevin, and it's taken by Drozdetsky, and a lot of traffic near the blue line. Team's a bit sluggish at the outset here of this 3rd period, as Langevin steps into Drzezdetsky and sends him flying. Loose puck to the corner. Mark Howe going in along with Shalamov. Puck poked free to Drzezdetsky. Lost off his stick, though, and Mark Howe starts out with it. Here's Howe at center ice with wingers on either side, but it goes off the left wing Broughton and back into Soviet territory for Vasiliev to play, but he gave it right away. Centering pass out in front. Pops free deep in the slot, and coming up with it, Komotov. Komotov moving up the left wing, watched by Langevin. Langevin tying up with him and to help out Talafas, but it's poked away back behind the net now by Sportsov. Alexander Sportsov got it all the way back to the point to Babinov. Screen set up in front and a drive. Save Esposito. And starting back with it is Christoph. Christoph head manning to Broughton, then a shift change coming up for the U.S. as that play malfunctions at the Soviet line. Vasiliev tosses it over to Komotov. Komotov at center ice along to Sportsov. Sportsov by one, but watched by Richie Dunn. Dropping it off now to Komotov. Komotov got behind the net, had it checked off his stick by Esposito, the goaltender. Dunn goes for it along with Zlukov, but the U.S. able to control in some traffic and bunt it out to center ice. Vervuken backhanded it along, and it's on the stick of Komotov, who's given a check by Dunn. Larson comes by to pick it up for the United States. Larson right back out, but his pass tipped off of McClanahan, and so the Soviets regroup at their own line. On the turning stick, this one comes of Drzezdetsky, who stepped into by Larson, and the puck poked away by Patorik, but with it is Vilyadinov back in his own zone to Pervukin, then right back out again. So it's Richie Dunn advancing it into the Soviet end. Here's Dunn with a quick forehander, juggled by Tretiak, and the puck cleared back down the ice. So Richie Dunn with a good rising shot, but that one halted and icing called. 16:42 left in period 3. The Soviets 3, the USA 1.
I would think the USA would have to start taking longer shots, Mike. They can't seem to work in very close to the goaltender.
Penetration nearly impossible as Bob Miller leans with Pervukin behind the net, and the Soviets emerge with it. At center ice, Vilyadinov handing off to Golikov. Golikov carrying to the corner. Centering pass in front, and Boltsov sent it just wide. Morrow pass on to Tom Gorentz. Gorentz at center ice flipped one that was off Vilyadinov. He and Bob Miller jostle a bit for it. In the neutral zone, Drzezdetsky across to Maltsev. Maltsev just circling at center ice, picks up his wingers along the way, and back they go deeper. The puck eventually to Golikov. Vladimir Golikov checked at center ice by Christian. Loose puck. Bob Miller goes for it, but Vilyadinov cleared it away. Then Langway shot it back into the Soviet zone. No icing here as Pervukin taps off to Vilyadinov. Vilyadinov, watched by Bob Miller, poked it away from him, and ahead it came to Golikov. Then over on the far wing to Krutov. Dropped past to Maltsev. Tried to get it in front, but it was broken up by the USA defense. And back comes Dave Christian. Christian, along with Bob Miller, pestered from behind by Krutov. Gave it to Miller for a shot that's stopped by Tretiak. Puck loose behind the net, but controlled by Kasatnov. And Kasatnov just slides it ahead to Krutov at center ice. 15.5 minutes left in this third period. Soviets ahead by 2, 3-1. Behind his own net is Warren Miller. Miller passes over to Langevin, and Big Dave Langevin wheels it to center ice, but passed it by Johnson. Down the ice to the corner it goes. Johnson ties up with Fedosov, and around the boards Langevin, unable to make a play, falls, and out with it is Makarov. Makarov moving in on Warren Miller. Makarov to the slot, checked by Miller. Pass broken up by Howe. Mark Johnson bumped off by Makarov, but the loose one at center ice, and here's a break for Warren Miller. Miller tried to get the shot away, but was defended nicely there by Larionov. Behind the net, still they go for it, and up with it is Fedosov. Fedosov's pass ahead to Makarov at center ice, then cross ice over to Larionov. Larionov trying to get by the defense, but Richie Dunn brushed that one away. To the corner to play that one, Warren Miller behind to Richie Dunn. Then over on the near side, it's outletted by Mark Johnson, but picking it up Makarov. Soviets leading by 2, just over 14.5 minutes to go, third period, as here's a chance for Christoph as he moves in, but has the puck hung up in a broken stick, and so a turnover to the Soviets. Ahead now, Drzezdetsky. Drzezdetsky started in, but offside was called on the play.
Close checking. Once the team gets inside the other's blue line, they seem to be going end to end, and a lot of play at center ice. Bob Johnson, of course, very concerned with that 2-goal deficit. He's the coach of the USA team, but his philosophy rather is real strong defensive hockey and winning by 1-2 goals. But right now he's going to have to open up a little bit as he's down by 2.
Johnson said before the outset of the Canada Cup competition, if it's a 7-2 game, chances are we have not won it. Tight one, like a 3-2, we should win them. feels that defensive style, as Bob mentioned, is the key. Around the boards, trying to clear out with Drozhetsky. Ran into some U.S. traffic there. Talafas trying to center, locked up with Babinoff. Still they go for the puck in the corner. It's kicked free along to Neil Broughton. Broughton back in the corner as a centering pass they try to get a centering pass out, I should say, and that one malfunctioned. So once again, the U.S. playing in the Soviet zone, trying to get it set up. Not too much penetration as Christoph has it behind his own goal. Christoph circling, gets help from Langevin there. Langevin behind the net now to Broughton. Broughton with the only U.S. goal so far. Had it knocked off his stick by Shepelev, but Broughton got it back again behind the goal. Centered one in front for a drive, and that one knocked away by a skate to center ice, and ahead with this one now. Moving in is Drozhetsky in front, chased off by Dunn. Now a centering pass, and he hits the goal post. That was Shepelev. Drozhetsky defended nicely by Dunn, and then Shepelev hit the goal post. Verbuchen at center ice to Drozhetsky, back again to Shalamov. Shepelev has come to the bench in favor of Zluktov, and that passed well by Zluktov and back down the ice. Langway goes to play this and will have an icing call. 13 minutes left, third period. The Soviets 3, the United States 1.
Just after that, they had a good chance that they hit the goal post, and then Esposito blocked the centering pass, and that's such a key for a goaltender to block those pass-outs from the corner behind the net.
Bilyadinov over to Komotov, but U.S. forechecking tenacious, and the puck comes towards Batorik, but away from him by Bilyadinov, and an attempt again for Komotov, whose pass was ahead to Zluktov at center ice. Zluktov moving in, watched by Langway. Zluktov a shot high on Esposito, and he clumps the glove down to freeze play. Let's take time out for station identification on the Prism Canada Cup Network.
Another close-in shot by
but do you know us?
On Esposito. Esposito hugging that post, not allowing him to put it in on the short side. And a lot of times you can fool a goaltender because when you get in deep that way, they sometimes lean towards the center of the net. They expect that pass out.
Mark Howe's pass flagged down and driven wide of the goal by Verbuchen. Along the near boards, poked away from Bob Miller, and Skvortsov moves in for a rising shot that cracked off the glass. Howe bumps from the far corner with Komotov. Loose puck in front quickly. The Soviets for a backhander by Komotov and saved by Esposito on 2 occasions. The initial shot and the rebound. Antonio came up big on those, preserving the current Soviet lead of 3-1 rather than seeing it enlarged. Puck turned in from center ice, but the Soviets move back out again. Bob Miller steps into Skvortsov and helping out with a little body Langevin. Loose puck to Mark Howe, cleared it off the back of his own goal. Up the wing for Tom Gorentz, who was defended. Then Howe steps into a man. Here's a chance for the Soviets again. A forehander score by Vladimir Golikov, who cruised deep in the slot.
Again, it was that drop pass. You really have to watch that man coming late with the Soviets, as you had 3 U.S. players all around the puck. The other 2 were in front of the net. That left both pointmen wide open. And Golikov just ripped that shot high up over the shoulder of Tony Esposito, and the USSR has a 4-1 lead. Alexander Golikov, or pardon me, Vladimir Golikov.
Puck turned back toward the Canada line. Fedosov with help from Maltsev, and quickly they pass that puck back and forth. Drozhetsky and Maltsev playing catch. Drozhetsky a rising shot that goes hurtling into the seats. Well, thus far, 25 Soviet shots, 4 have entered the net, 21 for the USA, and only 1 has gone in. And as Bob mentioned earlier, it's just a matter of getting penetration around that Soviet goal. Tretiak was probably the most vulnerable in the first 2 or 3 minutes of the game, when there were some costly Soviet turnovers, including one by Tretiak himself. Esposito giving to Larson. Along now to Warren Miller, who just shoved it to center ice. Kasatnov put it back in again, delayed offside, wiped out as the Soviets bring it back once more. Richie Dunn flips it to the neutral zone. Mark Johnson sent it ahead, but too far for Eves. Eves chasing back with Fedosov. Fedosov around his own defensive right wing boards to Skvortsov. Then some help coming from Kasatnov at center ice to Drozhetsky. Right back to Fedosov. Then moving in with this one is Golikov. Golikov tried to drop one back, but Richie Dunn interceded. And along the boards to Warren Miller. Miller's backhand pass stopped at center ice by Kasatnov. Kasatnov saw one go off a teammate's stick, and the U.S. gets it back, and here's a chance for Neil Broughton right in front. Oh, and a save on that play to Tretiak. good U.S. chance there. Broughton tried to connect on a pass again, but Drozhetsky intercepted there and got it along to Maltsev. Maltsev worked on by Langway as they moved toward the corner of the U.S. zone, and Maltsev able to get away with the puck. Maltsev wrapped up by Warren Miller, centered one in front. That one's cleared away, but blindly, and nearly a turnover there that might have resulted in a good chance on net for the Soviets. Playing this is Langway in the corner. Rod Langway with a pass on the stick of Neil Broughton at center ice. Broughton right back across to Langevin, whose pass skittered free back to the Soviet line. And we have an offside call. 10:16 left in the third. 4-1 the Soviets. Larionov to draw for this one. Larionov, the owner of the first goal of the game. And that held up through the first period. U.S. got one early in the second as we see another icing call. And then the Soviets came storming back with 2 in the second and 1 here in the third.
10:09 remains, Mike. A lot of time, really, because this game can be broken open at any time, but you need to get a goal quickly. When you're down by 3, you have only 10 minutes to make that difference up, but you can bet that the coach of the USSR, Tikhonov, is going to make sure that his players watch for those scoring breaks.
The brain trust is Tikhonov of the 76 Canada Cup team. The Challenge Cup team is a big drive by Christoph. Is knocked loose by Tretiak. Here's Brock with a drive. And that one trapped by a sprawling Babanov.
That's the key right now. The U.S. has to get those shots away because Tretiak is not controlling his rebounds very well at this stage of the game. He's getting the big shot, but they're coming right back out. And if the USA team can get in there and jump on that rebound, they're going to increase their opportunities. Tretiak with a shot up high, just blocking it, not catching it, not smothering it. It came right out again, a good 20 feet out. And it wasn't for the fine play by Babanov. Tretiak would have had to make another save. Babanov just getting up off the ice after taking that shot in the midsection.
Mark Howe, backhander, turned away quickly by Pervukin, and at center ice the Soviets move with it. Shepelev into the zone. Shepelev along with Shalamov, and Shalamov has it. Drops it right back to Pervukin, then for Shepelev, but it's checked off his stick, and back out comes the U.S. Bob Miller moving up the left wing. Miller hung up there, gets the puck back again, then down he goes in front, and the fans want a penalty call, but they'll not get it. Playing in the corner is Shepelev, sidled up to by Tom Gorence. Christian digging for it there, along with Bilyadinov. Bilyadinov and Christian, inadvertently for Christian, intentionally for Bilyadinov, freezing the puck to the boards. And a face-off to come near Tretiak.
Well, Tommy Gorence has had a couple of good opportunities for USA, and he has failed to put them home. He played very well in this tournament, though, and Coach Bob Johnson was extremely pleased with his play. And I think he was a little bit surprised as well, Mike, is the fact that Tommy worked so hard and skated so well. He said he had trouble scoring goals, but he sure can play that game otherwise.
Young man developed in the Philadelphia Flyers chain. 2 years for the American Hockey League's Maine Mariners as Eves sent one wide. Around it comes to Fatorik. Fatorik dropped one behind the goal. Trying to poke it loose was Kasatnov in the Russian defense, and the puck comes free to Zhlukhtov. Zhlukhtov check, but the loose one to Eves in front now for Johnson, and it rolled off his stick before he could get the shot away. Back up ice for the Soviets. Sportsov, as Robbie Fatorik breaks his stick on him. Sportsov keeps going to the corner. Down he goes again on a check by Fatorik, and Fatorik up with a puck. Robbie Fatorik, the USA captain, with a pass that flipped off a stick at center ice. Back it comes just under the glove of Komutov. Komutov going into the corner, getting the stick up a bit with Richie Dunn, and Dunn prevails with the puck. Dunn just bouncing one back to center ice. Kasatnov playing it there on the turning stick of Sportsov, but poked from him by Langevin. So back into the Soviet zone, the Russian players regroup, and circling with this one is Zhlukhtov. Zhlukhtov, who had the go-ahead goal that broke the 1-all tie in the second period, turned it deep into the U.S. zone, but the Americans start to bring it back out again. We have 8 minutes and 15 seconds to go in this third period. USA will have to get something going very quickly, and thought that they might have had a start on it just a moment ago when very near the front of the net, a puck rolled off a stick. There was a chance off Broughton that Tretiak just blocked away. Headman passes off Maltsev's stick, poked from him by Langway, and at center ice the U.S. starts back again. Here's Neil Broughton leading the rush. Broughton at the circle, forehander rising when went just wide. And around the boards it goes to center ice where Ken Morrow has it. Morrow across to Langway. Langway with a pass at center ice, right on the money. The stick of Neil Broughton up the right wing for Talapus. Big Dean Talapus turning, got it back toward Broughton, but then he was checked, and back up come the Soviets now. Maltsev wheels into the U.S. zone, but as he headed in, offside on the play was Vladimir Golikov. 7:31 left in period 3. It's the Soviets 4, the USA 1.
4-1 the score. 7:31 remains in the third period.
Tony Esposito shunts this over to Mark Howe, and Howe flips one that bounced away from Tom Gorance. Gorance retrieving at center ice, but then it's given up to the Soviets again. Pervukin got it on to Krutov, and Krutov with a wrister that Esposito blocked away. Mark Howe to play behind his own net. Starts out the left defensive side with a pass at center ice for Bob Miller, and Miller cleared it right back into the Soviet zone. Along it comes now to Langevin at the point, behind the net to Tom Gorance. Gorance now to Bob Miller, who got one out in front for Howe. Howe with a turnarounder. It's off a skate into the corner. Christian playing it there, behind for Gorance, but he's checked. Gorance still sparring, and the puck worked free by Pervukin, but not out. Howe with another drive. That one floated in front and went wide. Bob Miller in the corner, behind the net to Gorance. Gorance tied up to the corner by Pervukin. Still the two of them go for it, and some sticks going high near the goal, and two players will come off.
You can almost see that going to happen, Mike.
6:37 left in the third period. A pair of penalties coming up the score of the game. The Soviets 4, the USA 1.
14:23 is the time for the penalties, and I believe they're for high sticking.
Richie Dunn is parked back at the lower right of your screen, top of the circle for the face-off. Tie up there, but the puck to Johnson. Rich shot saved, rebound in front, and Eaves couldn't get a hold of it. In the corner now, it is Shepelev giving behind his own net to Fedosov. Fedosov forechecked by Mike Eaves once more. Loose puck cleared blindly by Kasatonov, but it hopped off a U.S. stick to Shepelev. Cross it comes to Shalamov. Shalamov with Shepelev breaking, has it poke-checked away. Loose puck goes to Fedosov. Fedosov heading behind the goal. Fedosov out in front. Backhander trickled through the crease wide. Richie Dunn for the USA defense. Cross-ice pass almost on the stick of Shalamov, but at center ice moving along with it now is Reed Larson. Larson's pass went off Kasatonov, and Shepelev gives up to Shalamov off the center ice boards. Shalamov moving in, couldn't get by Richie Dunn. Shalamov working for it there, but it came along to Fatorik, defended by Shepelev. Fatorik still going for it, trying to get away from Kasatonov, still working to the corner, and Robbie Fatorik prevails. Has a man in front. Fatorik trying to turn the corner at the circle, got it to Langway. Langway behind the net, tried to tuck one around in front, but on top of it is Tretiak.
And now Langway and Fedosov are having a few words with each other, but quickly. The USSR defense came to the end of Tretiak as he covered up on the short side and to prevent that stuffing chance on the part of Richie Dunn or Robbie Fatorik. Well, whenever the USA has had that scoring opportunity, there's been a Russian stick in the way, or else goaltender Tretiak has had his leg, stick, and glove in the way. And they've really played well in front of him, only allowing him that first shot. And most goaltenders, when you get into this caliber of play, will get at least 98% of those first shots. It's the rebounds, the screens, and the tip-ins that are the tough ones to make the saves on.
Neil Broughton and Shlukhtov tie up on the face-off, and Broughton got it over for a drive by Christoph that went off the boards to center ice. Morrow playing cross-ice to Rod Langway. Langway on the turning stick of Steve Christoph. Christoph for the U.S., which trails in the game 4-1, just 5 minutes and 12 seconds to go. Handing off to Langway. Rod Langway tried for a backhand pass, but it came harmlessly away to Shlukhtov, who sent it up the wing to Sportsov. Sportsov moving in. Forehander stopped by Esposito, and Tony seals it.
That's a very dangerous play for a goaltender to cover, because Zubtov is a left-handed shot coming down the right wing, so he's going to have a better angle on the goal. And if you can make that move to the forehand, not many players can do that. He made a fine move to the forehand and got the shot away, and Esposito had to make just a little bit of an adjustment, move to his right. Of course, he was right there on the angle and smothered the shot and forced the face-off.
And that is what we will watch, as will Tony Esposito. Back it comes to Babinov, then to Vasiliev for a shot that ricocheted off two Russian sticks. Played by Mark Howe, right out in front. His pass had to be taken by Esposito and sent back to Mark Howe. Howe behind the net to Langevin now. Langevin just holding as U.S. needs to get something galloping in the opposite direction, but they haven't had much success. not too many good chances on Tretiak. Penalty time on the coincidental minors has expired, so the two teams are back at full strength. Dave Langevin for the U.S. moving it off the skate of Howe at center ice, but it came to Gorance, and they ruled an illegal pass there, so they'll bring it back to the point of origination of that pass, just inside the U.S. blue line.
Well, Mike, the USSR style of play really is not that of strong forechecking. They tend to sit back quite a bit and pick you up around center ice, and with a 4-1 lead, that style of play is really going to play into their hands, because the USA is going to have to try and force play in the other zone, and it's going to be tough to set up in the other zone because they're going to have every one of that red-white team back there.
So much is said of the Soviet offense and very little of the Soviet defense except for Tretiak. But that has certainly been a factor in stifling what offense the USA has been able to muster here this afternoon. 4-1 the score. The Soviets lead. 4 minutes and 5 seconds to go. Valery Vasilyev back in his own zone for the Soviets. Pass ahead. Tipped ahead to Golikov. Golikov hustling in, has Maltsev on his right. Golikov centered one, but it was behind Maltsev and picked up by Fatorik. Robbie Fatorik, headman for Johnson, intercepted by Pervukin and put right back to Maltsev. Maltsev hustling in, drive off Richie Dunn's stick and out of play. 3:45 left in the third. The Soviets lead it 4-1. Larionov on the face-off to draw with Neil Broughton, and it's Kristov working back to Morrow. His pass off Krutov's stick, and at center ice, Dean Talafis drops it into the Soviet zone. Kristov hustling in, ties up there with Vilyadinov, and ahead with it are the Soviets once more. At center ice, it's Makarov. Pass off Krutov's stick. Krutov and Tony Esposito go after it, and they're hung up with each other. Also there is Morrow. The puck squirts to the corner. Krutov got a stick on it once more, and then he and Langway got the sticks up as the U.S. brings it back out to center ice. Neil Broughton tied up from behind by Larionov, and that forced a man offside as Broughton was held up just outside the blue line. So with 3:13 left in the third period and the score 4-1 in favor of the Soviets, faceoff will be back in the neutral zone. 29 shots so far on the game for the Soviets and 25 for Team USA. We mentioned at the top of the show that 7 members of that 1980 Olympic team are in the lineup today. 1 was scratched. That was Bill Baker. Broughton, Morrow, Christian Johnson, McClanahan, and Kristov are the other 6. From the faceoff, this comes to Langevin, then over to Mark Howe. Nicely by 1. Here's Howe at the circle. Centered one in front, but it bounced off a stick and couldn't be handled by Bobby Miller. Soviets try to clear once more, but Gorance moves in and is able to keep play deeper in that Soviet zone for a moment. They clear it back into the U.S. end. Mark Howe skating it down there. Howe with a pass that is slowed by Miller for Gorance to carry in. Gorance's pass ahead of Christian goes to the corner. Christian going in along with Kasatonov. The two of them lock up, and Bob Miller slings one in front. That hops toward Gorance. Gorance skating freely with it over to Howe. Then off the boards by Christian. It goes toward Bob Miller, but is guided away by Kasatonov. Pinching in is Langevin. Got it behind the net for Bob Miller, who's sealed up for a moment by Kasatonov. So Christian's there to help out. Got it to Gorance. Tom Gorance heads back behind the net. Tried to turn the corner one-handedly. Was shoved off by Fedosov. Gorance will try it again. Around in front. Down he goes. And Fedosov plays for the Soviets. Just shoves it right back to center ice. And with 2 minutes and 13 seconds left in this game, Soviets leading in the contest 4-1 and certainly dominating when it comes to the offensive opportunities. The Americans got some early in the first period. A couple of good ones around the net, but you can really count on about 2 hands of the American shots, 25 in the game, the number of really good scoring opportunities they have had. Sportsov head manning now to Komotov, but that play broke down, and so back to center ice comes the puck, and once more they started in. Vasilyev giving over to Sportsov. Sportsov toward the corner, shoved off by Richie Dunn, and the loose puck picked up by Eves. Eves starting it back for the USA, gives to Johnson, then cross ice over to Reed Larson. Larson stepping into the Soviet zone, unleashes one that's blocked by Babinov. Larson and Babinov go back behind the net, and playing this is Shluktov. Shluktov with a give and go will bring it out to center ice himself. Shluktov on the wing now to Sportsov. Alexander Sportsov to Shluktov for a shot deflected in front, and Esposito stopped it, scrambled there, and Esposito able to grab it before the Soviet player in front, Shluktov, could pump it home. Watch this play once more. Shluktov set it up, flipped one that was appeared to be off a U.S. stick, then loose in front, and Esposito went for it. Meanwhile, Richie Dunn was doing a good job of tying up a man who was much heavier. He's looped off at 209 and Richie Dunn at 192. But Dunn using the upper body strength to halt that Soviet offensive, with Esposito covering the puck. Now in the final minute of play, Langway's pass too far at center ice, jammed loose and brought back in. Here's Drozhetsky trying to get a chance with help from Golikov, but that pass by him over the center ice, into center ice area and back across the blue line for an offside. And here you see Dean Talafus, who had back in his college days, playing for Bob Johnson, the title-winning goal in '73 for Wisconsin's taking the NCAA championship. Missed some of last season for the New York Rangers because of a neck nerve pinch. Cost him about 30 games. Maltsev in the slot for a shot by Golikov that's stopped by Esposito. Golikov to the right of the goal. Give and go. Back to Golikov for a shot, but Esposito stopped cold. As we mentioned, the USA chances have not really been that significant at the Soviet end, and Esposito has faced some good Soviet scoring opportunities, and this one coming from the talented stick of Vladimir Golikov. He halted that one. Golikov, the second best scorer in the recent World Tournament in Sweden that was won with no defeats by the Soviet Union. As I recall, they won the final game from Sweden by a score of 13-1. Very powerful squad, and Golikov certainly a contributor with that. As a matter of fact, he and Drozhetsky were tied for second in the scoring lead in that World Tournament. And as Bob mentioned at the top of the show, they consider that of really greater importance than the Canada Cup. But any time that the puck is dropped and a game can be won or lost and face won or lost, well, you'll always find the Soviets there, as they've been this afternoon. 23 seconds left in this one. Soviets with that 3-goal lead. Krutov circling at the center ice area. Tried to roll it in, got some help from Makarov. Makarov heading back behind the net, tried to center, but that one was blocked by Langevin. Langevin rolling it along the boards for Bob Miller. Miller for the U.S. behind his own goal as the final handful of seconds go off the scoreboard clock. And this one registered as a Soviet victory. The final score reads, the Soviet Union 4 and the United States 1. This is the Prism Canada Cup Network.